What's good, Josh? The guy Makai. Welcome back to my channel. Make sure you leave it a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and every subscriber helps. Over here on this channel, we talk about the NBA daily. So if you enjoy the NBA as much as I do, please subscribe. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite players, James Harden, and just how I think his game has changed lately over the past, I want to say, like 2-ish years. And just what we're seeing from him this season in Philadelphia, what we're seeing in the playoffs, and just kind of the regression that we're seeing. And to start off, James Harden, obviously, if you watch James Harden play, he obviously doesn't have the same speed. He doesn't have the same burst he used to. He's not destroying guys. He's not destroying certain guys one-on-one. There are some matchups I still do feel like he can take advantage of, but it's definitely not the rate it was in Houston, and obviously not because I think he's about 30. He's like 32 years old right now, and this is around the age where stars start to kind of decline physically. We kind of get spoiled by watching LeBron be like peak physical shape and just dominate for so many years, like late into his 30s. But this is around the age where stars start to decline, and really I feel like up until the hamstring injury in last season playoffs, up until then James Harden was still relatively the Harden we knew. But I feel like that hamstring injury kind of just zapped the kind of burst that he had, and then he had more leg injury issues like this season in Brooklyn. So I just think some of the injuries late in his career kind of piled up on him and just made him who we see today. Now the thing about the Harden discourse is that you see he's not putting up the same amount of points. I think he's been held to the teens in points, bad efficiency. He's averaging 21 points this season, 10.5 assists though, but 40% from the field. I think it's like 32% from three. And the most staggering thing is the rim numbers, because James Harden is was a really prolific driver. He was really good at getting to the rim. He was good at getting his floater off, Euro steps. Everybody knows about James Harden. But this season, he's only 21% of his shots are from between 0 to 3 feet. 20% of his shots are 3 to 10 feet. He's not really much of a mid-range guy, and 49% of his shots this season in Philadelphia are coming from the three-point line. In Brooklyn, it's kind of the same. 45% of the shots come from three, a little bit more getting to the rim. But this season in total, 43% of his shots come from three. He's not really shooting many mid-ranges. 23% of his shots are coming at the rim. 24% of his shots 3 to 10 feet. So what that tells us is that he's getting to the rim at a way lower rate than he was getting to the rim in Houston or something. Now let's look at his last season in Houston. In Houston, in his last season, he was 31% of his shots were coming at the rim. So we were seeing him get more higher efficiency shots. And just watching him, you can tell he does not have the same speed. And let's talk about the Toronto series real fast. In the Toronto series, there were a lot of instances where he would be matched up with, let's say, he would be matched up with a guy like Precious Achiuwa. And back in the day, a guy like Precious Achiuwa, don't get me wrong, he's a really good defender, really, really good. But back in the day, Harden is probably gonna drive right past him. He's a little too slow for him. Precious Achiuwa was getting stops. Like Harden was having to call for screens to get away from Precious, and the only ones that he was able to really take advantage of were Gary Trent and Fred VanVleet, because Harden does have his size to pull back on drives. He is still a really, really strong presence. He's 6'5", really strong type dude. But when it's somebody like bigger than him and he can't really like brush them off, I feel like he's gonna really struggle with drives. But the reason I think Harden, scoring is, looking so bad is because he was never like some amazing out of this world type shooter. Cause like he was getting a lot of threes, off the step backs. He was not really shooting many spot ups, but really his bread and butter was the step back three. And I feel like without the threat of the drive being as prevalent as it was back in the day, the threat of the step back three and the threat of the pull up three is not as dangerous, because they get to sit more and stay close to the Harden because they know he's not just going to blow right past him like he used to back in the day. So I feel like that is also hindering his scoring game. And we saw it last night. I think he had like 16 points against, Miami. He had 5 assists, 9 rebounds. The thing about Harden right now is that the most valuable thing he's going to bring to the game is his playmaking. And don't get me wrong, Harden is still, I think, a valuable player. He's just not in that, upper tier MVP type tier, you know what I'm saying? He's more in like the, kind of all-star, really impactful offensive guy. But yeah, it really hurts to see, Harden be turned into this, because, he gave us some of the best scoring seasons in NBA history. and now to see him at this level is kind of sad. But you know, James Harden just, you know, the injuries kind of zapped him with his speed. Now, what do I think this means for for the Miami Heat series? I think without Joel Embiid, it's going to be a really, really tough time for Harden because they can put a lot more attention on him. He doesn't have, you know, nobody else on the team really sets, you know, nobody on the team really had that symmetry, that connection on pick and rolls like Harden and Embiid do right now. I guess you can say to a degree DeAndre Jordan, but do you really want DeAndre Jordan playing playoff minutes at, you know, at this point in his career? So really, Harden needs screens to get downhill. I feel like, you know, you can use drag screens to get him downhill. You can do, you know, side handoffs. You can do a lot of things to get Harden into, you know, better spots. But asking Harden to create from a standstill one-on-one on the island, that's just not something that I see being really popular moving forward. You're really gonna need to get him, you know, get him downhill using drag screens, get him downhill using handoffs, get him, you know what I'm saying. If he's gonna isolate, it's gonna have to be through switching, you know, like they, you know, force a switch by calling the screen. Like that's what we saw them do, you know, in the Toronto series. But it's just weird to see Harden like this. Like obviously he's getting older, you know, and things like this happen, but I just think that, you know, the floater hasn't really been there like it used to be. He doesn't really have to lift. He doesn't, you know, he still brings out the Euro step every once in a while. He still has, you know, some craft. He's still getting to the rim a lot. He's still getting to the rim a lot. I think he's shooting 8 free throws a game this year. You know, still shooting like 89% from the line. But, you know, just the lack of burst and just the lack of rim pressure, along with him being kind of an average shooter, I think that's what really hurts him. And I think that from this year on, he's probably going to be more of an impact, you know, playmaking, more, you know, impact passing the ball than really scoring the ball. And I think, you know, in hindsight, if Philly would have known that Harden was like this and just Harden wasn't going to be, you know, the top tier scorer that, you know, we know him to be, they probably spend more time thinking about that trade. But I still think they probably do a trade though. But now this kind of, you know, changes Philly's makeup, you know, for the future in my mind, because now you're gonna have to ask Tobias Harris, obviously you're gonna have to ask him to pick up more of a scoring role this year. But Tyrese Maxey for the future, I think, is gonna have to play a big role scoring wise on the ball, because we've seen this year Tyrese Maxey is the one really benefiting from some of the attention that Harden gets. And then when teams stop giving, you know, Harden that attention, Maxey kind of, you know, goes back and struggles. So I think they're gonna have to figure out a way to make sure that Maxey, you know, improves offensively and make sure he can create from a standstill, because you're not gonna be getting that in the backcourt from James Harden anymore. At least not at the rate that he was in the past. But, you know, Harden is still really impactful. I still think Philly is a really good team. You know, with Embiid back, he comes back soon. But I don't think that James Harden is going to have a really good time in this Heat series. They got a lot of, you know, length and size to throw at him. They got a lot of guys at the rim to kind of, you know, stymie drives. They have length to bar the setback threes. I just don't think it's going to be a good time for Harden. But if you stayed to this video, thank you. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you stayed to this video, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.